Welcome to Ping 24 Updates. Subscribe my channel and press the bell icon for more updates. The news alert flashed worldwide, cutting through the usual hum of daily headlines with a sense of urgency that was impossible to ignore. Across continents and time zones, television, smartphones, and radios blared the same message. Something significant was unfolding in the heart of the South China Sea. China had deployed military jets and positioned new buoys near ongoing Philippine naval drills in the West Philippine Sea. The sudden escalation sent ripples of anxiety through the region, as both nations moved assets into contested waters, each determined to assert its presence and stake its claim. The South China Sea, usually a vast expanse of blue, dotted with commercial ships and fishing boats, is more than just a body of water. It is a vital artery for global trade, a lifeline for millions who depend on its resources and shipping lanes. But beneath its tranquil surface, tensions simmered, threatening to boil over at any moment. This was not just another routine maritime dispute. It was a direct and unmistakable challenge in one of the world's most hotly contested waterways. The standoff between Chinese and Philippine vessels was tense, with each side refusing to back down, their actions watched closely by allies and rivals alike. Grainy, shaky footage captured the moment a massive Chinese Coast Guard ship loomed menacingly close to a much smaller Philippine boat. Overhead, the thunder of fighter jets shattered the uneasy silence, a stark reminder of the military might at play and the risks faced by those on the front lines. The tension was etched on the faces of the Filipino sailors, worried yet resolute. Their eyes tracked the approaching vessel, every muscle tensed for what might come next. In that moment, their determination was clear. They would not be intimidated, even as uncertainty loomed. In Manila, government officials wasted no time. They condemned what they called aggressive Chinese maneuvers, denouncing the incursion as a violation of international law. The United States, standing shoulder to shoulder with its longtime ally, reaffirmed its ironclad commitment to the Philippines, signaling that any threat to Manila would not go unanswered. The incident quickly exploded onto the international stage. Newsrooms from Tokyo to Washington scrambled to cover the unfolding crisis, while world leaders issued statements of concern. The standoff threatened to draw in global powers, raising fears that a local dispute could spiral into a wider conflict, jeopardizing the fragile peace of the Indo-Pacific. Scarborough Shoal, once a little-known reef, suddenly found itself at the center of global attention. It became a symbol of the struggle for a rules-based international order, a flashpoint where the principles of sovereignty and freedom of navigation were being put to the test. This confrontation felt more brazen, more dangerous than any before. The presence of military jets patrolling the skies sent a clear message. Beijing was willing to enforce its sweeping claims, even if it meant risking open conflict. The stakes had never been higher. For the Philippines, a nation with a proud history of standing up to larger powers, this was a defining moment. The sight of the national flag fluttering defiantly on a naval ship, and memories of past protests against foreign encroachment, stirred a sense of unity and resolve among Filipinos everywhere. Around the world, people watched with bated breath. International journalists broadcast live from the region. Analysts debated possible outcomes, and ordinary citizens wondered if this would be the spark to ignite the South China Sea tinderbox. The world waited, uncertain and anxious, as history unfolded in real time. October 17, 2025, began like any other for the Philippine Coast Guard. The sun rose over the horizon, casting a golden glow across the calm waters. Crew members moved with practiced efficiency, preparing their vessel for another routine patrol. The air was filled with a sense of quiet determination, as the crew readied themselves for what they expected to be another day of vigilance in the contested waters of the West Philippine Sea. But beneath the surface calm, there was always an undercurrent of tension, a silent awareness that any day could bring the unexpected. As the Philippine vessels drew closer to the disputed Scarborough Shoal, the routine was shattered. Out of the morning haze, Chinese maritime security ships emerged, their movements deliberate and coordinated. These ships began to shadow the Philippine vessels, matching their speed and course with unnerving precision. The message was clear. The Chinese presence was not a coincidence. Calculated move to assert dominance in these contested waters. The proximity of the two nations' ships created a palpable tension, as every maneuver was watched and countered. Suddenly, a Chinese vessel broke formation and moved toward the shoal. Crew members on deck began dropping bright orange buoys into the water, one after another. These buoys formed a visible physical line in the sea, a bold and unmistakable act. It was as if China was drawing a boundary, daring anyone to cross it. The orange markers bobbed in the waves, a stark reminder of the ongoing struggle for control over these waters. This was more than a simple navigational marker. The placement of these buoys was a strategic move, an attempt to solidify China's sweeping and internationally disputed claim over the shoal. By physically marking the area, China sought to create facts on the water, reinforcing its narrative of ownership and control. For the Philippine crew, the sight of these buoys was a direct challenge to their nation's sovereignty, a provocation that could not go unanswered. The Philippine crews responded not with force, but with documentation. Cameras in hand, they recorded every action, every maneuver, every buoy dropped into the sea. In this modern maritime standoff, evidence was as powerful as weaponry. The footage they captured would become crucial in the battle for international opinion, serving as proof of China's aggressive tactics and Manila's resolve to stand its ground. The situation escalated further when the roar of jet engines filled the air. Chinese fighter jets appeared overhead, flying low and fast above the Philippine vessels. The jet's thunderous presence was a deliberate act of intimidation, a show of force designed to rattle nerves and demonstrate Beijing's willingness to escalate the confrontation beyond the maritime domain. The arrival of armed Chinese ships only heightened the stakes. What began as a routine patrol had now transformed into a high-stakes standoff, teetering on the edge of military confrontation. The Philippine crew faced not just maritime law enforcement, but a military-grade threat, underscoring the seriousness of the situation and the risks involved in defending their nation's claims. The timing and coordination of these actions were no accident. Every move was calculated to undermine Manila's authority and test the resolve of the Philippine government. By blocking and harassing the Philippine vessels, China sent a clear message. It was willing to use every tool at its disposal, diplomatic, military, and psychological, to assert its will in the region. In this tense and dangerous encounter, Beijing demonstrated not only its capacity but also its determination to control the area. Through a combination of maritime maneuvers, aerial intimidation, and psychological pressure, China sought to enforce its claims and reshape the balance of power in the South China Sea. For the Philippine crew, the day had become a stark reminder of the challenges they faced and the courage required to stand firm in the face of overwhelming odds. Scarborough Shoal, known locally as Panatag Shoal, is vital to the Philippines. It sits within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, a traditional fishing ground for generations. The shoal is a rich spawning ground for fish, crucial for Filipino fishermen's livelihoods. When China blocks access, it takes away the livelihoods of thousands, violating international law. The economic impact is immense, affecting the fishing industry and local economies. Beyond economics, it's a matter of national pride and sovereignty for the Philippines. The shoal is a symbol of Philippine sovereignty and the enduring spirit of its people. The tensions in the South China Sea are not new. They are the latest chapter in a long and complex dispute over territory and resources. In 2012, these simmering disagreements erupted into a dramatic standoff that captured the world's attention. The Scarborough Shoal, a small but strategically significant area, became the flashpoint for a confrontation that would reshape regional dynamics. News outlets across Asia and beyond reported on the escalating situation, highlighting the high stakes for both nations involved. The standoff began when Philippine authorities attempted to apprehend Chinese fishermen accused of illegal activities at the shoal. Tensions quickly escalated as both sides sent additional ships, leading to a tense face-off at sea. The world watched as the two countries stood their ground, neither willing to back down, with their coast guards and naval vessels locked in a dangerous game of brinkmanship. Eventually, China seized effective control of the shoal, prompting the Philippines to seek a peaceful resolution through international law. In a bold move, the Philippines filed a case at the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, challenging China's sweeping claims in the South China Sea and seeking to clarify maritime rights under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. After years of legal proceedings, the tribunal delivered its landmark ruling in 2016. The decision was clear. The tribunal found in favor of the Philippines, declaring that China's so-called 9-dash line had no legal basis. The ruling invalidated China's expansive claims and affirmed the Philippines' rights within its exclusive economic zone. The outcome was celebrated as a historic triumph for international law and the rules-based order. Philippine officials hailed the decision as a validation of their long-standing position, and the ruling was seen as a victory not just for the Philippines, but for smaller nations everywhere seeking justice through legal means. However, despite the clear verdict, China rejected the ruling outright and continued to maintain a strong presence at Scarborough Shoal. Chinese Coast Guard and fishing vessels remained in the area, effectively ignoring the tribunal's decision and asserting de facto control over the disputed waters. The 2016 ruling gave the Philippines both moral and legal high ground, strengthening its case in the eyes of the international community. Yet, the standoff persists, as China's defiance and continued activities at the shoal underscore the ongoing challenges in enforcing international law in contested waters. The dispute remains unresolved, a symbol of the broader struggle for power and principle in the South China Sea. China's strategy for controlling Scarborough Shoal is insidious, often described as a cabbage strategy. Surrounding the area with layers of ships effectively chokes off access for others. A constant flotilla of Chinese ships acts as a blockade, using intimidation tactics. China has attempted to rebrand its occupation as environmentalism, declaring the area a marine nature reserve. This maneuver is a thinly veiled attempt to legitimize its control. The militarization of the area is another key component, with military-grade ships and jets indicating intent. This strategy creates overwhelming pressure, wearing down the Philippines' resolve. The Philippine government has adopted a bold strategy of transparency. The Philippine Coast Guard documents and publicizes Chinese harassment, rallying international support. The Coast Guard has become a symbol of national resilience, conducting patrols with courage. The government supports affected communities, providing modern boats and alternative livelihoods. Confrontations are frequent, with each patrol risking a new standoff. The government walks a tightrope, asserting rights without triggering war. The Philippines is not alone. Its transparency campaign has galvanized international support. The U.S. has reaffirmed its mutual defense treaty with the Philippines, serving as a deterrent. Japan and Australia have deepened security partnerships, conducting joint patrols and supporting the arbitral ruling. European countries have sent naval vessels and issued diplomatic statements supporting the Philippines. This international backing provides diplomatic leverage and security support, isolating Beijing. The situation at Scarborough Shoal is a powder keg, with a high risk of miscalculation. A collision or accidental discharge could escalate into a military skirmish. Filipino fishermen face military-grade tactics, risking their lives and livelihoods. The U.S. Mutual Defense Treaty raises stakes, potentially drawing the U.S. into conflict. A conflict between superpowers over the shoal would be a global catastrophe. The area risks becoming a permanently militarized zone, affecting regional stability. Scarborough Shoal's importance lies in its strategic location in the Indo-Pacific. It dominates the eastern access to the South China Sea, a vital global shipping artery. Control of the shoal means control over global trade, affecting economies worldwide. Its location is crucial for Taiwan's security, potentially complicating defense efforts. The fight for Scarborough Shoal is a microcosm of the larger contest for global order. It pits the rule of law against the rule of force, with principles of sovereignty at stake. The fate of this small patch of sea is linked to global peace and security.